Bransfield. As the title says, this is a bunch of correct opinions as I'm an official proper professional. You want proof? I worked on a PlayStation magazine for 3.5 years. I have them all in PDF form. I look at my old opinions and rub the pages, which I regularly print off, all over myself. Because I was so utterly drenched in PlayStation those years. And as a result, I know everything about the formats. One thing I know is the best PS3 exclusives. So let's do a list on that, eh? Very quick wobbly handed aside to say as of recently I've removed ads from all of my videos. If you do want to support me still, you can head over to Patreon, the link is below. Okay, bye. Housekeeping. This is a list of games that, at the time of making this video, have never been released on any other format than PS3, nor have they been updated, remade or remastered for or from other formats. So no, Demon's Souls doesn't count, and you won't be seeing Uncharted 2 in here. If you comment saying I forgot The Last of Us, I am liable to hunt you down. List. The first game was an early PS3 FPS that did okay but not great. Some good ideas. The second game ran with its super soldier narrative to the point it was a parody of itself and was surprisingly dull with it. The third game cast you as a Don Draper lookalike living underground with a wife and child, part of a human resistance, hey, that's the name of the game, taking on the victorious alien invading force in a series of guerrilla skirmishes where you're always on the back foot. It took 3 games to get there, but Insomniac nailed it with this one, and it's a hugely ignored great in the first-person shooter genre. I actually forgot how intense the whole thing is, with firefights genuinely overwhelming you regularly until you're able to find somewhere to just take 5 seconds and recalibrate your brain to deal with what's going on. And even then it's a bit much. You're not meant to get into fights, see, from a storyline perspective. I mean, it's impossible to actually avoid them when playing, so it makes sense that what you face when you do engage in a shooting match is overwhelming, just so bloody hectic. And Resistance 3 helps to justify its extensive and varied weapons loadout through this hecticosity too, with an array of boomsticks capable of all manner of different tricks and treats to get you through combat. A marker shot with bullets homing in on it, a weaker pistol firing rounds that can then explode, a gun that bloody well shoots through walls. There's a use for all of them, and mixing it up on the fly under intense fire yourself is exhilarating. I mean, it'd be easy to complain you're rarely at an advantage against the enemy in most of the game, but then it is called Resistance and not US imperialism, so the atmosphere helps a lot too. Freed of jingoistic bombast, there's a palpable desperation to the situation you find yourself in. Yes, everything is being solved down the mighty barrel of the holy vessel known as guns, but the bleakness you're surrounded by is curiously refreshing as a setting. And lifting it further is the fact that there are no super soldiers. There are levels that switch from huge intense battles to quiet moments of reflection, with an ease that entirely avoids being jarring. It even mixes in elements of survival horror and sledgehammer-based underground fighting ring-inspired stuff at points. If Resistance 3 were just the pinnacle of the series, that wouldn't be saying much, as it's not the world's best of franchises. But I'd argue it isn't just one of the PS3's best exclusives. Resistance 3 is one of the best first-person shooters, full stop. Top 10? No. Top 20? Possibly? Definitely top 50 though. Criminally overlooked and well worth a go to this day. What you might see referred to as a meme game these days, Tokyo Jungle was immediately popular on its reveal thanks to the fact you could play as a Pomeranian and fight against lions. Nobody needed to know what the actual game was about or if it was any good. It sounded like a wonderfully wacky idea, so we were all keen. Keen enough, in fact, that Sony changed its plans and granted us a worldwide release of the game, changing things up from the initial Japan-only idea. And what we were rewarded with was something far less wacky and far more exciting and involved than anybody really expected. Tokyo Jungle is a roguelike survival game, seeing you take on the role of plenty of different animals, including that Pomeranian, positioned in different sections of the food chain. Hunters need to catch live prey and feast, smaller hunters the same, but with the added threat of other larger predators making you a meal, and all the fights that might entail. Herbivores need to both keep themselves fed with the plant life strewn around the post-apocalyptic Tokyo, but also keep clear of the dogs and cats and hyenas and lions and more out there ready to tear their throat out. Part of your survival comes in the form of procreation too. Claim a territory, find a mate, make some babies, and carry on with the next generation. Animal shagging is an important video game mechanic. What a time to be alive 2012 was. See, your puppies, or other such weans, act as extra lives of a sort, with your new pack of younglings venturing out on their own to continue to survive and thrive and make more generations of creatures for this world without humans. Yes, you start out as a Pomeranian and that's all funny and whatever else, but concept-wise, Tokyo Jungle is solid. The humans are gone, the animals have to fend for themselves, and it all plays out as a roguelike food chain 'em up. A great game that had its concept somewhat crushed under the weight of an aimless internet love-in. The PlayStation 3 wasn't the home of Zelda, so instead it was left to Silicon Studio, under the tutelage of From Software it's fair to say, to take things into its own hands. What we ended up with was 3D Dot Game Heroes, or as I like to call it, a massive rip-off of the 8-bit Zelda games. In the best way. There's a silliness, a light-hearted knowingness about 3D Dot Game Heroes that helps it steer clear of the naughty step for dirty, filthy copycats though. Rather than being seen as a shameless Zelda rip-off, the game instead stands on its own 2 feet as a loving homage wrapped in a delightfully stylish 3D/faux pixelated 8-bit style. I'm not one to bleat on about graphics and that, but crikey, the graphics on 3D Dot Game Heroes are amazing. Slow down be damned, it is a looker. Sure, actual Zelda games will always be better according to those who play them, so not me, but 3D Dot Game Heroes brings enough of its own personality, style, and challenge to the fore to make it something worth playing, both for fans of Nintendo's little elf, or whatever he is, and for those just looking for a nice laid-back classic-style action RPG. To quote a great man, or me, if you must know, speaking in a review from back in 2009, 3D Dot Game Heroes is fantastically warm-hearted and clearly made with real passion. So that's you told. Two things were big in 2011, superheroes and binary morality systems in video games in which you would either save older babies or make older babies explode, and other related dilemmas. Those things had been big for a few years by this point, sure, but I'm saying it to make my point, so bear with me because yes indeedy, Infamous 2 features a superpowered person and a binary morality system. Huzzah! Oh, and to make it even more of its time, our hero, or villain depending on how you play the game, has the perfect look of the PS3 and 360 generation's main characters. A white dude with a shaved head. Flawless. But I sound like I'm being down on it, not the case at all. It's just Infamous 2 is an of its time sort of thing you'd be unlikely to see pop up these days. The actual game behind it all is really good fun, with the simple act of navigating the game world intensely satisfying, second only I'd say to Insomniac's more recent Spider-Man titles, and that's especially true later on in the game when you unlock the lightning grappling hook thingy. I don't think it would be unfair for the first game to be in this list, taking the place of its sequel, but for me it's the second game that takes the podium just for the fact that it fixes some of the shonkier aspects of that first game, like our hero/villain's inability to scale chain link fences. And while I'm chuckling at the fact morality in video games still draws from the well of you are either the best in the world or the worst in the world, there's no denying that killing villages full of civilians and sucking the life force out of nearby innocent victims of your pitched battles with militia forces can be fun. And playing a game as an evil bastard is always a laugh. It's just a shame, being honest, that our lead feels the need to prance about like this. And so, I have to ask, in how many other games can you disappoint a turtle by singing at it badly? Exactly. AQUANAUT'S Holiday: Hidden Memories released only in Japan and Southeast Asia, a sequel to that PS1 game we've all seen but never really played. It's a definite shame the PS3 game never made its way west though, because it's a delight. It's one of those wonderful Prozac simulators where you just pootle around in a mini submarine and observe nature doing its best underwater thing. Yes, you have tasks, and yes, singing to the fish and turtles and sharks and whatever is an aspect of it, so you absolutely can fail things. But Hidden Memories offers the perfect respite from the bombast everywhere else in gaming. No attacking, no exploding, no discussing the morality of humankind, no timely 2010-ish contemporary commentaries on the war on terror, just that underwater pootle, a bit of photography, and following a great white shark for a bit. In the words of Shakin' Stevens, lovely stuff. I won't lie to you, dear reader. The game known simply as Everybody's Golf on PS3 is the better of the Everybody's Golfers on the console, but sadly it's a port of the intensely fantastic PS Vita version, and so does not count here. That said, it's not like World Tour is a bad game, it's just a bit older than the handheld follow-up, so lacks some of the refinements and touches that made the later games so special. What it is a golf game. For everybody. In the US, obviously, it had to be named Hot Shots Golf because nobody in the States can accept that some things might in fact be for everybody, but that notion of everyone playing this game is what shines through and makes it all so ruddy bloody special. An inviting look, customizable and accessible playstyles to make sure everyone can hit balls onto greens, and so on. At the same time, and as has always been the case with this series, there's some proper golf just under the surface. And even though super backspin and child characters and bears on the course and all that stuff stands out and grabs the attention, the fundamentals of the game are superb. Quick aside, I don't like golf, but have always liked golf video games. Go figure. Anyway, World Tour was that big and bold upgrade for a series that, while it had done well before, had really flown a bit under the radar. This time around it looked phenomenal. It included a real-life golfer who I know nothing about and refuse to look up. It brought together more courses and more special clubs and balls than ever before, alongside a level of presentation hitherto unseen in the franchise. A proper sequel then, and the best golf game on PS3. Until the Vita follow-up was ported. But still, always a superb way to ruin a good walk. Golf reference. So yes, Metal Gear Solid 4 is a clunky game. Not as clunky to control as previous entries, but clunky enough that I struggle to remember how to do it when playing for the purpose of researching this video. And yes, Metal Gear Solid 4 loves itself a cutscene or 300. In playing for a briefish while, I had at least 20 minutes of them to either endure or skip through. Yes, Metal Gear Solid 4 has its quirks and downright badness about it, I cannot deny it. But also Metal Gear Solid 4 taught me a new way to make fried eggs, which was handy back when I still ate eggs. And Metal Gear Solid 4 introduces or improves upon elements which would become part of the stunning package that ended up being the fifth game, such as soldiers communicating as a squad, calling in reinforcements and so on, and you being able to have an impact on this. And Metal Gear Solid 4 has a stupid but sincere sense of humour about it that makes it endearing, though also completely dorky in a stupid, embarrassing way. Most of this is just window dressing, of course, with the real meat of the game that mix of semi-open world sneaking introduced in MGS3 and the classic Metal Gear Solid thing of creatively taking out bog-standard soldiers before engaging in a ridiculous and creative boss battle. As well as this, you have an ending for a storyline over a decade in the making, with a crescendo that's genuinely fantastic. It really is. Talk to anyone who completed MGS4 about the end where you're crawling through the microwave thing and mashing triangle to not die, and you'll get some gushing responses there, I guarantee you. It's another weird one where the reputation has got away from it a bit, and there seems to be less of a focus on what Metal Gear Solid 4 does right. And that's a shame, because the game does a hell of a lot right. And while you do have to get used to a little bit of clunk before you can really enjoy it, there is a heck of a lot there to enjoy. Also, there's a monkey drinking cans of pop in it. Brilliant. easy to forget there was a period when the tower defense genre was the big thing that everyone was playing, but that is what was around 2008 when Savage Moon came out. And guess what? It's a tower defense game, just in case there was any doubt there. First up, I have always and will always call a game CABBAGE Moon. Second, this is a well-presented, digital-only game that brings together the atmosphere of a Starship Troopers ripoff and the strategy of a game about placing guns and funneling insect-like aliens through natural corridors to hopefully make them die before they make you lose. CABBAGE Moon is a very difficult game though, so more often than not I find myself being made to lose rather than making them all die, and I never did actually finish it. But it is still enjoyable, even though in replaying for this video I only got to level 4 before I actually started having to think in order to not fail. Shocker, I know. But for its time, CABBAGE Moon is a great game. Today, it's still a nice reminder of the fact this genre used to be on more than just mobile, and it's still good fun, if a bit dodgy on the controls and not sure if I mentioned hard, but for the PS3's exclusive PSN only games, it's one of the very best. Taken at face value, LittleBigPlanet 2, like its predecessor, is a middling platformer with some wonky physics, a beautiful look to it, and Stephen Fry doing a bit of voiceover work. So, pretty similar to how LittleBigPlanet 3 ended up being too then, except they brought Hugh Laurie in for that so we could have an impromptu Fry and Laurie reunion, and holy heckaroonies, you should look up a bit of Fry and Laurie if you haven't before, because it's an extremely good sketch show. Slight digression. Yeah, so LBP2 at face value is a mediocre platformer with some gimmicks, doing stuff like this to mix things up a bit, and generally speaking, not being much to make a fuss about. But that would be ignoring the community aspect and the creative tools. Where the first game let you mess around and make levels, the second game lets you make entire games, and good golly gosh if the community didn't just pull out some wonders from its collective backside over the years. One famous creation is Metal Gear Solid by way of LittleBigPlanet, so Sack Snake or something making their way around, peppering stuff with a paint gun, hiding in shadows, and following a story about the military-industrial complex. All because somebody wanted to try and make Metal Gear Solid in LittleBigPlanet. We also have shooters like Blast Radius, and puzzle games like Checkers, and a bloody RPG like Sealed Fate. An RPG? There's even at least one first-person shooter in the form of Vietnam FPS, and so very many other things good and bad, tiny to epic in stature. That's just 5 of the millions and millions of creations made for the game, lifting it from being a decent but not great platformer into one of the most wonderful, in-depth and rewarding creative hubs in all of gaming. Also, without LittleBigPlanet 2, we wouldn't have Dreams, the game, not the concept, so that's another reason to love it. It's sad that the original MotorStorm, and by proxy the series as a whole, has gone down in history as little more than an example of Sony's mid-noughties hubris. The original off-road racer, as presented before the PS3's launch, looked a mite better than the actual game ended up doing when it did eventually release, and this early preview became a rallying call for those wanting to downplay the capabilities of the then new Sony console. Thing was, MotorStorm was alright. It was a decent off-road racing game with a good blend of both rough and ready and skillful playstyles, helping it to stand out from other racers of the era. It wasn't great though. Follow-up MotorStorm Pacific Rift, on the other hand, is great. Not only is the whole thing fairer, given the original leaned way too heavily on its tough level of difficulty, thanks in no small part to the excessive twitchiness of its physics, but Pacific Rim adds something the original lacked. Colour. So much colour. Moving from nondescript deserts to Pacific Islands is a masterstroke, dragging the dull browns of the original into a bright land of sunny islands, long stretches of beach, bright jungle, and blinding lava flows. Oh yeah, because Pacific Rim leans heavily on the whole "there are volcanoes here" thing, having you race around active lava flows, carefully jostling for position to avoid yet another crash into a wall on the left, or burning to death in the molten magma on the right. And genuinely, Pacific Rim nails the excitement. Rubber banding be damned, you're often in the thick of things, battling at high speed to outdo your opponents in a number of different vehicle types, threading the needle between obstacles, carefully managing your boost so you don't explode, and battling, properly battling against the aggressive AI. It's a fabulous and different racing game, and exactly the sort of thing you would expect to lead directly into a, post-apocalyptic story-led sequel? Huh. I mean, MotorStorm Apocalypse isn't bad, and there was a definite air of Mad Max about the series from the beginning, but that wasn't the way to go with the games. Anyway, Pacific Rim. Brilliant racing game and worth playing to this day, it has been said, and is therefore so. There's a few Ratchet & Clank games that only released on PS3, so a few decent choices for a star-studded list such as this. Problem is, most of them are just Ratchet & Clank, which is unspectacular platforming with a lot of combat. Fun, and something I've played every single game in the series of. Not sure how to end that sentence. I've played them all, I mean. But A Crack in Time adds something that makes the game genuinely great. Timey-wimey puzzles. It's fair to say most of the game is the usual stuff. Run around, hit stuff with a spanner, shoot stuff with an array of guns both silly and less silly, manipulate nuts and stuff also with a spanner, don't laugh very much at stuff because it's never been funny, and so on and so forth. They're fine elements, they're fun elements, except for the not laughing thing. But then you take up the mantle of Clank, the little robot fella, and engage in some wonderful time manipulation based puzzles, centered on creating up to 4 copies of yourself and having them perform tasks to help you overcome obstacles in your way. It wasn't a new sort of puzzle at the time. Games had been doing the clones of yourself time-based puzzles for a while, with the likes of Braid nailing it a year before A Crack in Time, and a game on the Amiga where you played as a snail, and I've completely forgotten what it is, also doing it forever ago. But that doesn't stop it from being a fun concept, and it lifts A Crack in Time into genuinely rather special territory in a way I never expected to happen, and a way that has sadly been dropped by the series since. Elsewhere, the space sections return and are actually better than before, as well as optional, while those hoverboot things make a first appearance. You know what I mean, the things that help make the PS5 Ratchet & Clank okay rather than too boring for words. Oh, and I guess there's some pathos in the story too, maybe, probably, but it's the puzzles and will always be the puzzles for me. I want a Ratchet & Clank game entirely based on the puzzles. It's all well and good walloping by at 200 odd miles an hour on special stage Route 7 in a super-powered purpose-built racing car, mucking about with the windscreen wipers because you can in Gran Turismo 6, and generally living that I am a race car driver like Jerry fantasy so many want to indulge in. Both 2010's GT5 and 2013's GT6 do a good job of that, and offer experiences measuring in the dozens, the hundreds of hours of buying cars, tweaking engines, driveshaft management, and camber-based entertainment. But to me, the big draw in Gran Turismo is something like this. Hurtling around a track in a second-hand 1999 Vauxhall Tigra at a whopping 70 miles per hour. Barely scraping by the UK national speed limit for motorways, and tackling such fierce competition as a Honda Fit, or Jazz as we know them here, and a Peugeot 206. Then finishing second. To me, the draw in Gran Turismo is to then rebuild the battered old banger's engine to gain a handful of HP, it's horsepower not hit points, and to fit a spoiler for some level of street cred. Oh, and to repaint it, obviously. Then to redo that race with this spanking new tweaked monster of a second-hand 1999 Vauxhall Tigra and, well, finish second again. The draw in Gran Turismo, to me, is to then spend thousands of credits speccing up my crappy little second-hand 1999 Vauxhall Tigra and absolutely nadgering the competition with it. Easily breaking the UK speed limit for motorways and showing that with a little bit of love and a lot of spending money, your crappy little banger can hold its own. At least for a while. That mundane nonsense is brilliant. I see the appeal in a Forza Horizon 5 throwing you out of a plane in a supercar and driving around volcanoes and such over-the-top daftness, but you can keep your Ferrari F40s and F1 cars, even though both are in the Gran Turismos. I live for the slow burn of building bangers up, of starting out with a piece of garbage and scrapping for every position, for every inch of the track, for every podium placement, so that when you are eventually able to afford a car that can truly handle itself, you feel like you've earned it. Both Gran Turismo 5 and 6 do this on PS3 and do it brilliantly. GT6 specs itself up somewhat, resulting in what I'd say is an objectively better game, if only for the fact it features usable menus, but the reason you're seeing both number 6 and Gran Turismo 5 here and now is because 6 has no used car dealerships. So while you can start out with poorer cars, you can't start the game properly, with an oil change needing, thousands of miles on the clock having, second-hand 1999 Vauxhall Tigra. As ever, thank you to my $5 and above tier folks on Patreon. You are the gust beneath my underarm skin flaps. And the hugest of bigger thanks to my higher tier supporters who offer me hope in these bleak times that maybe, at some point, I'll suffer some form of non-damaging memory loss that will allow me to see Terminator 2 for the first time all over again. Lola Osman, Paintball Magazine PBM, Takara Hoshi. I'm off to hire a crane to help put the PS3 back in the cupboard, because it's large. It's a big console. It's huge. That's the joke. Bye!